Hello and welcome to A-Level Math. This is the first video in the series Straight Lines. This video assumes that you are already familiar with the basic concepts of coordinate geometry. If you are not, please go and click on the I button above that covers the basic concepts like the distance between 2 points, the area of a triangle and section ratio. In this video, we'll be getting into some basic concepts of straight lines like inclination of a line, the slope of a line, and the concepts of angle between two lines and the conditions in which the lines become perpendicular or parallel. So let's get started. First of all, let's understand what is the inclination and slope of a line. So assume that this is the Cartesian plane and here I draw a straight line. The angle which this line makes with the x-axis, suppose theta, is called as the inclination. To be precise, the angle which a straight line makes with the positive direction. So remember that this is the positive direction of the x-axis and this is the negative direction of the x-axis. So the angle which a straight line makes with the positive direction of the x-axis is called as its inclination. So in our example, this theta is the inclination. So just because that the angle which this line makes with this direction of the x-axis is theta, so theta is my inclination over here. So suppose that I have a line that makes an angle of 45 degree or 60 degree, whatever, then that becomes the inclination of the line. Alright, so let's assume that in our case the inclination is theta. Then the slope of the line is given by tan theta. This is the definition of the slope. So whatever is the inclination, suppose theta is my 60 degree, that means the line makes an angle of 60 degree with the x-axis. Then in that case, the slope becomes tan 60 degree, which is equal to root 3. Okay, so I need to tell you a few things about the slope. Needless to say that for the first quadrant, when my theta lies between 0 and 90 degree, then the slope will be positive because in the first quadrant tan takes positive values. If my theta lies in the second quadrant, suppose that instead of line being like upward, the line is downward sloping. So in such a case, my theta will be something more than 90 degrees. So suppose that if I extend this x-axis, then this angle is obtuse. So remember that you cannot go in this direction. Why? Because I told you that the angle has to be made from the right hand side, the positive direction of the x-axis. That is why you cannot go this way. You always have to go from here to here. So in that case, my inclination will be something greater than 90 degree, which will be obtuse. And in that case, my slope will be something negative because in the second quadrant for values like 120 degree or 135 degree, tan takes negative values. So the slope will be positive if theta lies between 0 and 90 degrees, and slope will be negative if theta lies between 90 and 180 degrees. Alright, so let's ignore this part. So if theta is equal to 0, then slope is also equal to 0 because tan 0 is 0. So slope is equal to 0 if theta is equal to 0. Okay. Alright, so let's move ahead. Let's take a very simple question. Find the slope of a line whose inclination is 45 degree, 60 degree and 150 degree. So these are actually 3 questions. I'll be just doing the first one. You have to do the rest of the 2. The slope of a line whose inclination is 45 degrees. So if inclination is 45, then slope becomes tan of 45 degrees, which is equal to 1. That's my answer. Quite simple, right? Similarly, you have to do the other 2. Slope for the line whose inclination is 60 degrees will be tan 60 degrees. And slope of the line whose inclination is 150 degrees will be tan 150 degree. You have to find out the values. What is the inclination of a line whose slope is 0? Okay, so we are given that slope is 0. That means tan theta is 0, which means that theta is equal to 0. So the inclination in such a case will become 0 degrees. Alright. So for the next question, we need slope to be positive as already discussed. So for the slope to be positive, we need our theta to lie between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay. And for the slope to be negative, we want our theta to lie between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. That means in the second quadrant. And for the slope to be undefined or not defined, I want my theta to be 90 degrees. Remember why? Because for theta equal to 90 degree, tan 90 becomes undefined. Remember that tan 90 is undefined. So if we want our slope to be undefined, we have to take theta equal to 90 degree, because in that case slope, which is tan 90 degree, becomes undefined. Quite simple questions as of now. Okay, next question. Slope of a line passing through two given points. Okay, so let me make Cartesian plane over here and let's make up a line. Now this thing says that you are given 2 points on this line. So as of now, what we were given is that what is the angle which this line makes with the positive direction of the x-axis. That means we are given the inclination. Instead of that, what we are given now are 2 points on the line. So suppose that this is the first point, this is my first point, and this is my second point over here. So suppose that this point is x1, y1, and this point is x2, y2. Now I want to find out the slope in terms of these points. That means I want to find out the slope in terms of x1, y1, x2, and y2. So I want to derive a formula for it. So let's see how we can do that. So if I drop perpendiculars from these 2 points and also a perpendicular over here, just like similar to what we have done in the previous videos on the basics of coordinate geometry. So in a similar way we move ahead. So this point is x1 comma 0, this point is x1 comma 0, and this length is y1, this entire length is y2, and what is this length? So we know that from here to here it is x2, and from here to here it is x1. So this portion is x2 minus x1, and so is this portion, because this is a rectangle. So this length becomes x2 minus x1. Okay, let me clean up the stuffs now. So all we need is this x2 minus x1. Okay, now I want this part. So what is this entire length? This is y2. What is this length? This is y1, and so is this, because it's a rectangle. So this length up to here is y2 minus y1. Okay, so we have got the length of the perpendicular and the length of the base and the length of the perpendicular, and assume that this angle is theta. So this angle is also theta, corresponding angles, because this line and this line are parallel, and this angle is equal to this angle because they are corresponding angles. So if I want to find out tan theta is, we know that it's perpendicular by base. Perpendicular is this y2 minus y1, divided by base is x2 minus x1. So the base is x2 minus x1. And remember, what is tan theta? Tan theta is nothing but the slope of the line. So see, we have found out the slope of the line in terms of the points x1, y1, x2, and y2. This is the formula that you need to remember, and we'll be using it almost in every question. Okay, so remember that for two given points x1, y1, and x2, y2, the slope of the line is given by y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. Let's take up a question. Find the slope of the line passing through these 2 points. Okay, so assume that this is my x1, this is my y1, this is x2, and this is y2. So the formula for the slope is y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, which is equal to minus 5 minus 3 divided by 8 minus 2, which is 8 plus 2. So it gives me minus 8 by 10, which is equal to minus 4 by 5. So this is the slope, so this is the slope of the line which joins these 2 points. Okay, next question. Find the value of x so that the inclination of the line joining these points is 135 degree. Okay, so we know that we have 2 formulas for calculating the slope of a line. One is using the inclination and other is using those 2 points. So anyway, doesn't matter in which way you calculate the slope, it has to be equal in both the ways. So this is what that we use. So in the first case, the slope of the line is tan 135 degrees because the inclination is given to be 135 degrees. So this is the slope, and similarly we are given 2 points, so we can also find out the slope using the 2-point formula. Okay, so we have minus so if I take this to be x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2, then my slope is given by 5 minus minus 3, which is 5 plus 3, divided by 2 minus x. Tan 135 degrees can be written as tan 90 plus 45 degrees is equal to 8 by 2 minus x. If you're not understanding how I'm calculating the values of tan 90 plus 45 and tan 135, I would recommend you to see my entire series on trigonometry, because it covers everything that you need to know for understanding your class 11th mathematics about trigonometry. So please go ahead and watch them so that you have a clear understanding of what we are doing over here. So now this becomes minus cot 45 degrees, which is equal to 8 by 2 minus x. Cot 45 is 1, so we have minus 1 is equal to 8 by 2 minus x, which means we have x minus 2 is equal to 8, or x is equal to 10. So this is my answer. Next question, slopes of parallel lines. Okay, so suppose that I take a Cartesian plane over here and I give you a straight line. Now I suppose that I tell you that, okay, the inclination of this line is theta. Suppose I give you another line which is parallel to the previous line. So these two lines are parallel now. Can you tell me what is the inclination of this line? You're correct, it's theta, of course, because these two lines are parallel and these two angles then become corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are equal. So both of the lines have the same inclination. And if the inclinations are equal, that means the slopes are also equal, because the slope for this line is tan theta and the slope for this line is also tan theta. So that means if two lines are parallel, then their slopes are equal. I repeat, for two parallel lines, the slopes are equal. So let's use this to find out the answer to the given question. Show that the line joining these 2 points is parallel to the line joining these 2 points. So we are given a straight line which passes through these 2 points and another straight line which passes through these 2 points. Remember that to draw any straight line, you just need 2 points. So whenever you see 2 points, they can be thought of as forming as a straight line. So first of all, let's find out the slope for these 2 points, the line joining these 2 points. So the slope is 1 minus minus 3, which is 1 plus 3, divided by minus 5 minus 2. So this is the slope for the first case. For the second case, the slope is 3 minus minus 1, which is 3 plus 1, divided by 0 minus 7. So this slope is actually equal to 4 by minus 7, and this slope is also equal to 4 by minus 7. Since the slopes of these two lines are equal, hence we can conclude that these two lines are parallel, because it's only for the parallel lines that we can have equal slopes. Next, angle between two lines. Suppose that I give you two straight lines. So this is my Cartesian plane, this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. This is my first line which forms an angle of alpha, whatever it is, or beta, theta, whatever you want to take, and this is another straight line. Okay, now I want to find out the angle between these two lines. Okay, so this is what the problem statement is. So okay, let's assume that alpha 1 and alpha 2 are the respective inclinations of the line. That means for the first line, alpha 1 is the angle which the line makes with the positive direction of the x-axis, and for the second line, alpha 2 is the inclination. So let's assume that theta is the angle between these two lines. Now my task or my objective is to find out this theta in terms of the slopes of the other two lines. Okay, so what is the slope of the first line? It is tan alpha 1. And what is the slope of the other line? It is tan alpha 2, because alpha 1 and alpha 2 are the inclinations. So their slopes are respectively tan alpha 1 and tan alpha 2. Now I want to find out something. I want to find out theta in terms of alpha 1, alpha 2, or tan alpha 1, tan alpha 2, anything. Okay, so for that, let's understand this. So if this is theta, then this is also theta because they are vertically opposite angles. And what is this? This angle is 180 minus alpha 2, 180 minus alpha 2, because this entire angle is 180, this part is alpha 2, so this remaining part is 180 minus alpha 2. Now all of these angles, theta, alpha 1 and 180 minus alpha 2, lie inside the triangle, so their sum should be equal to 180 degrees. So let's use that. Theta plus alpha 1 plus 180 minus alpha 2 is equal to 180 degrees. So that means we have theta is equal to alpha 2 minus alpha 1. Now what we can do, we can take tan on both the sides. So tan theta is equal to tan alpha 2 minus alpha 1, which is equal to tan alpha 2 minus tan alpha 1 divided by 1 plus tan alpha 2 tan alpha 1. So you might not understand this formula if you haven't seen my videos on trigonometry. So you have to be familiar with the entire concept of trigonometry, and we have used the formula of tan A minus B over here. We know that tan A minus B is tan A minus tan B by 1 plus tan A tan B. This is the formula that we have used. Okay, if I assume that the slope of my first line is m1 and the slope of my second line is m2, then I can write it as m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. So this is the formula for calculating theta. Alright, so I repeat it again. If theta be the angle between these two lines, then tan theta is equal to m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. And we write all of this in sign modulus because we always want this theta to be acute. We don't want to find out this greater angle. So there are two kinds of angles that are made when two lines intersect, right? So if two lines intersect, there are two angles that are made. First of all, the smaller angle, and secondly this bigger angle. But we are always talking about the acute angle, so we never want our theta to be greater than 90 degrees. So whatever is this value, we always take the positive of it. Even if it is if it turns out to be minus 2 by 5, I'll take it as to be 2 by 5, so that my theta remains acute. So that is why we have put this entire thing inside a modulus. Okay, so let's take up some questions. Find the angle between the lines whose slopes are half and 3. So I am given the slope of the lines, means m1 and m2, half, and m2 is equal to 3. So these are the slopes of my given lines. Now I want to find out the angle between them. So if I assume that theta be the angle between them, then tan theta is equal to m2 minus m1 divided by 1 plus m1, which is 3 times m2. So this turns out to be 3 2s are 6, 5 by 2 divided by 3 2s are 5 by 2 again. So this turns out to be 1. So tan theta is 1, that means theta is equal to 45 degrees. So that means that these two straight lines make an angle of 45 degrees between them. Okay, so parallelism and perpendicularism. So again, let's take down the same formula. We know that tan theta is equal to m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. Okay, so what is this theta? Theta is the angle between these two lines. No problem, good so far. Now if we want these two lines to be parallel, that means that I want my theta to be 0, because if the lines are parallel, then there is no angle between these two lines, right? In that case, theta is actually 0. So for parallelism, I want this theta to be equal to 0. So what I get, tan 0 degree is equal to m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. Tan 0 is 0, so I get 0 is equal to m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. If I cross multiply, I get m2 minus m1 is equal to 0, implies m1 is equal to m2. So that means that if I want the two lines to be parallel, then their slopes should be equal. And we have already discussed it. We have discussed it intuitively, but this is actually a mathematical proof to show that if two lines are parallel, their slopes are indeed equal. Okay, now let's consider the case for perpendicularism. So if I want the two lines to be perpendicular to each other, that means my theta is actually 90 degrees. So let me write down the formula again. Tan theta is m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2, where m1 and m2 are the slopes of the lines, of the two lines. And if I want these two lines to be perpendicular, then I want my theta to be equal to 90 degree. So I get tan 90 degree is equal to m2 minus m1 by 1 plus m1 m2. Now tan theta is something undefined. So if I want this quantity to be undefined, the only possibility is that this denominator is 0, because we already know that a fraction gives undefined results when its denominator is 0. That means this is true when 1 plus m1 m2 is equal to 0. That means m1 m2 is equal to minus 1. This is the condition for perpendicularism. If you want two lines to be perpendicular, the product of their slopes should be equal to minus 1. Okay, so suppose if I tell you that there is a line whose slope is 2, then some other line that is perpendicular to this line will have a slope of minus 1 by 2, because I want some straight line such that these two products are minus 1, so I get the slope for the other line to be equal to minus half. So the simple funda is that this, I am telling you this shortcut because you'll be using it very often. So suppose that you are given a straight line whose slope is given to be, suppose, something like 2. Then to find out other line, some other line which is perpendicular, forms a 90 degree with this line, you have to do two things: reciprocal and make it, the sign should change. So reciprocal, change sign, reciprocal, change sign. Suppose I give you that the slope of this line is equal to minus 5, then the slope of this line will be equal to 1 by 5. Reciprocal, change sign. So on changing sign it becomes positive, and on reciprocaling it becomes 1 by 5. Okay, so try to remember this shortcut because we'll be using it very often. Show that the line joining these 2 points is perpendicular to the line joining these 2 points. So just find out the slope of these two lines. Okay, so for the first case, the slope is 5 minus minus 5, which is 5 plus 5, divided by minus 2 minus 2, minus 2 minus 2, which is 10 by minus 4, which is 5 by minus 2. For the second case, the slope will be 1 minus 3 by 1 minus 6, which is equal to minus 2 by minus 5, which is equal to 2 by 5. So aren't these two lines perpendicular? Yes, of course. You just reciprocal and change the sign. So if you reciprocal 5 by minus 2, you get minus 2 by 5, and change the sign, you get 2 by 5. So indeed these two lines are actually perpendicular. Next, using slopes, show that the points these are collinear. So I have to show that these 3 points are collinear but using slopes. So if I want 3 points to be collinear, what I want is that, so okay, suppose these are the 3 points. I want these 3 points to be collinear. Okay, so you just find out the slope of this part and you find out the slope of this part. Okay, and if it turns out to be equal, if these slopes turn out to be equal, then they have to be in a straight line. Okay, because in that case only they will be parallel and they will have a common point. So all of these 3 points will lie on a single straight line. So I have 3 points, these and these. So the slope of this and this should be equal to the slope of this and this. Okay, so let's try and check it out whether it turns out to be equal or not. So for the first 2 points, my slope is minus 1 divided by 1 minus 5, and for the second case my slope becomes 4 minus minus 1, 4 minus minus 1, which is 4 plus 1, divided by 11 minus 1. So this turns out to be minus 2 by minus 4, which is equal to 2 by 4, which is equal to half, and this turns out to be 5 by 10, which is actually half. So see that these 3 points are actually collinear because the slope of these 2 points is equal to the slope of these 2 points. So this slope is equal to this slope. That's why they are collinear. Okay. Next question. If the points h comma 0, a comma b and 0 comma k lie on a line, show that this thing holds. We will take the same approach as we did before. So if we are given that these 3 points lie on a line, that means they are collinear. So we just move ahead in the same direction. So the slope of these 2 points is equal to the slope of these 2 points. So what I have is b minus 0 by a minus h is equal to k minus b divided by 0 minus a. Okay, and we have to just simplify and see whether we get this or not. So I get b by a minus h is equal to k minus b divided by minus a. I cross multiply, I get minus ab is equal to a k minus kh minus ab plus bh. Minus ab and minus ab cancels out. I get ak minus kh is equal to minus bh. So I have to prove that. Okay, so let's take b on the one side and kh on the other side. Okay, so ak plus bk is equal to kh. Now I divide on both sides by kh, so I get this. So here k and k cancel out, I get a by h plus here k and k gets cancelled out, I get, sorry, this is bh not bk, my bad. So h and h cancels out, I get b by k, which is equal to 1 because kh and kh cancel out. So here is the result that we are required to prove. That's it. Thanks a lot for studying with A-level math. I'll see you in the next video on straight lines. We'll take some harder problems and we'll take more examples and more understanding into straight lines. Till then, bye bye. Study with A-level maths. Thanks a lot.